They thought he was just another easy target, until he proved them dead wrong. Marcus Johnson steps through the doors of Westridge High School, his shoulders squared despite being the new kid. 16 years old and recently moved from Chicago, his eyes scan the unfamiliar hallway with quiet intensity. The corridor buzzes with the chaos of morning routines, students slamming lockers, laughing in tight circles, and rushing to beat the bell. Marcus keeps his head down, schedule clutched, in hand trying to navigate the maze of classrooms. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. His first 3 classes pass in a blur of introductions and curious stares. In each one, he chooses a seat near the back, making minimal eye contact. Not because he's shy or afraid, but because Marcus has learned to observe before engaging. Behind his reserved demeanor lies years of training in mixed martial arts, a discipline that taught him both incredible fighting skills and the restraint to use them only when necessary. At lunch, Marcus finds an empty table and sits alone. He unpacks his food methodically, his movements economical and precise. From across the cafeteria, a group of boys take notice. They nudge each other, pointing and snickering in his direction. Marcus sees them but continues eating, seemingly unbothered. Derek Wilkins and his crew have ruled Westridge High's social hierarchy for years. Varsity football players with an inflated sense of privilege, they've made a sport of targeting new students. Derek, broad-shouldered with a perpetual smirk, approaches Marcus's table with his 3 friends flanking him like bodyguards. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Derek's voice carries across the cafeteria, drawing attention. "You're sitting at our table, new boy." Marcus looks up calmly, taking in the 4 boys towering over him. "Didn't see a reservation sign," he replies, his voice low and measured. "Plenty of other tables around." The cafeteria grows quieter as students sense the brewing confrontation. Derek's face reddens slightly at Marcus's lack of intimidation. "Maybe you don't understand how things work here," Derek says, leaning forward and placing his palms flat on the table. "When we ask you to move, you move." Marcus sets down his sandwich, wipes his hands carefully on a napkin, and meets Derek's gaze directly for the first time. "I'm almost finished. You can have the table in 5 minutes." A collective murmur ripples through the watching students. Nobody talks to Derek like that. The next day, Marcus arrives at his locker to find Derek and his friends waiting. Students nearby pretend not to watch while stealing glances at the unfolding drama. Marcus approaches calmly, his backpack slung over one shoulder. "Heard you're from Chicago," Derek says, blocking Marcus's access to his locker. "Probably think you're tough because of it. But this isn't Chicago. This is my school." Marcus stands perfectly still, his breathing unchanged. "Just trying to get to my locker, man." Derek smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Sure thing, right after you apologize for yesterday." The hallway grows tense with anticipation. Marcus's expression remains neutral, but something shifts in his eyes, a hardness that wasn't there before. "Nothing to apologize for," Marcus says. "Now please move." Derek's smile vanishes. He shoves Marcus hard against the lockers, the metal, clanging loudly in the suddenly silent hallway. "Make me!" For a brief moment, something dangerous flashes across Marcus's face, then vanishes just as quickly. Instead of responding, he simply steps away from the lockers, adjusts his backpack, and walks around Derek toward his first class. "That's what I thought," Derek calls after him. All talk. As Marcus walks away, whispers follow him. No one realizes that what they witnessed wasn't cowardice, but extraordinary self-control. A week passes with increasing harassment. Derek and his friends knock books from Marcus's hands, bump into him in the hallways, and spread rumors about why he left Chicago. Through it all, Marcus maintains his composure, though students notice his jaw clenching tighter each day. On Friday afternoon, Marcus heads to his locker after the final bell. The hallways are nearly empty when Derek and his friends corner him in the East Corridor. "Week's up, Chicago," Derek says. "Time for your proper initiation." Marcus shakes his head. "Don't do this, man." Derek laughs, glancing at his friends. "He's begging already." "I'm not begging," Marcus says quietly. "I'm warning you." This elicits howls of laughter from the group. Derek steps forward, shoving Marcus hard against the wall. This time, Marcus doesn't move away. He stands his ground, eyes locked on Derek's. "Last chance," Marcus says, his voice eerily calm. "Walk away." Derek's answer is to swing a punch aimed directly at Marcus's face. What happens next seems impossible to the few students still lingering in the hallway. Marcus moves with lightning speed, sidestepping the punch while simultaneously grabbing Derek's extended arm. In one fluid motion, he redirects Derek's momentum, sending him stumbling forward off balance. Derek whirls around, face contorted with rage and surprise. His friends stand frozen, unsure what just happened. Marcus has adopted a subtle stance. Weight balanced evenly, hands raised slightly, body angled. "What the—" Derek doesn't finish the sentence before charging forward. This time, Marcus doesn't just deflect. He meets Derek's wild attack with precise counterstrikes. A quick jab to the solar plexus that leaves Derek gasping, followed by a controlled sweep that takes Derek's legs out from under him. Derek crashes to the floor hard, the wind knocked out of him. Two of Derek's friends rush forward. Marcus moves like water between them, blocking, redirecting, and striking with controlled precision. His movements reveal years of disciplined training, economical, effective, and restrained. Within moments, all three attackers are on the ground, stunned but largely unhurt. Marcus stands among them, barely breathing hard. "I train 6 days a week. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and boxing since I was 7, he says quietly. "I left Chicago because my dad got a better job, not because I was running from anything." The hallway falls silent as Marcus stands amid the fallen bullies, his breathing controlled and posture still composed. For several long seconds, no one moves. The few student witnesses stare in disbelief, phones clutched in trembling hands where they've captured fragments of what just happened. Derek lies on his back, blinking up at the fluorescent lights, his understanding of the world fundamentally altered. His friends groan nearby, struggling to process how quickly their perceived dominance had been dismantled. A sophomore girl, Aisha Williams, is the first to break the silence. "Oh my God," she whispers, tapping furiously on her phone. Screen. Within seconds, the video begins its rapid journey through the school's social media ecosystem. By the time the first teacher arrives on the scene, Ms. Hendricks, the English literature teacher, at least 30 students have received the notification that something extraordinary has happened near the East Corridor. "What's going on here?" Ms. Hendricks demands, surveying the scene with widening eyes. 4 students on the ground, one standing calmly in their midst. Her gaze fixes on Marcus, whose demeanor has already shifted from fighter back to student. His hands hang loosely. At his sides, no aggression remaining in his posture. "They attacked him, Ms. Hendricks," Aisha volunteers immediately. 4 against 1. He was just defending himself. Derek struggles to his feet, his pride more injured than his body. "He's trained," he mutters, a hand pressed against his sternum where Marcus's precise strike had landed. "Nobody said anything about him being trained." Within minutes, all 5 boys find themselves marching toward Principal Thornton's office. The hallways they traverse are already buzzing with distorted versions of what happened. By the time they reach the administrative wing, the entire school is electrified with the news that the quiet new kid from Chicago had single-handedly defeated the school's most feared group of bullies. Principal Thornton, a former military officer, with 20 years in education, sits them down in the conference room rather than his office. "This requires more space than my office allows," he explains, his voice measured but severe. He positions Marcus on one side of the table and Derek's group on the other, with himself at the head. Now, I want to hear exactly what happened, starting from the beginning. For the next 45 minutes, the story unfolds from multiple perspectives. Derek and his friends attempt to downplay their actions, describing them as just messing around and normal new kid stuff. But their narrative quickly unravels when Principal Thornton reveals that 3 different students had already submitted video evidence to the school's anti-bullying portal over the past week, documenting their harassment of Marcus. And what about today? Principal Thornton asks, turning his attention to Marcus, who has remained largely silent throughout the proceedings. Marcus speaks with clarity and precision, recounting the events without embellishment. I warned them to walk away. Derek threw the first punch. I defended myself using the minimum force necessary to neutralize the threat. I didn't pursue them once they were down. I didn't strike anyone who wasn't actively attacking me. The controlled vocabulary and tactical assessment cause Principal Thornton to raise an eyebrow. You speak like someone with training. Yes, sir, Marcus acknowledges. I've studied martial arts since I was 7. My father is a security consultant who believes in preparation, but my teachers have always emphasized restraint above all else. As the meeting continues, more evidence arrives. The school security cameras have captured most of the incident, and the footage clearly shows Derek initiating physical contact. Additionally, 6 different student-recorded videos have now reached the administration, each showing portions of the confrontation from various angles. In each one, Marcus's controlled response is evident, clinical in its efficiency, but measured in its execution. Why didn't you report the bullying? Principal Thornton asks Marcus directly. Marcus's answer reveals a complexity the principal hadn't anticipated. Where I come from, involving authority can sometimes escalate situations. I was hoping it would resolve itself without confrontation. My father always taught me that the first victory is preventing the fight altogether. By late afternoon, decisions have been made. Derek and his friends received 2-week suspensions for bullying and initiating physical violence, plus mandatory counseling sessions upon their return. Marcus receives no formal punishment after the preponderance of evidence confirms he acted in self-defense, though Principal Thornton requires him to attend 3 sessions with the school counselor to discuss appropriate channels for conflict resolution. As Marcus leaves the office, he finds his father waiting in the reception area. Michael Johnson, a tall man with the same watchful eyes as his son, listens to the full account without interruption. When Marcus finishes explaining, his father asks only one question. Could you have disengaged without the physical response? Marcus considers this seriously. No, sir. I tried verbal de-escalation multiple times, today and all week. They were determined to force a physical confrontation. His father nods once. Then you did what was necessary. No more, no less. The drive home is quiet until Mr. Johnson speaks again. You know this changes things at school. Yes, sir. Marcus acknowledges, watching the suburban landscape pass outside the window. I know, the next morning confirms his father's prediction. Marcus can feel the difference the moment he steps through the school doors. Students who never acknowledged him before now nod in his direction. Whispers follow him, but they're different from before, tinged with respect rather than derision. The video has circulated widely, with some versions garnering thousands of views overnight as they spread beyond Westridge to neighboring schools. During first-period chemistry, his lab partner Tyler finally asks the question everyone wants answered. Where did you learn to fight like that? That was some movie-level stuff. Marcus offers a modest explanation about his training background, emphasizing the years of discipline rather than the techniques themselves. Throughout the day, similar questions follow him from class to class. By lunchtime, he's developed a standard response that redirects the conversation away from the violence and toward the philosophy behind his training. When he enters the cafeteria, another change becomes apparent. Multiple tables have spaces conspicuously open, students gesturing for him to join them. After a moment's hesitation, Marcus chooses a table with a mix of students he recognizes from his classes. The conversation initially revolves around the incident, but Marcus gently guides it toward other topics. Their upcoming history project, the basketball team's chances this season, a new movie release. After school, Principal Thornton calls Marcus into his office again, but this time the meeting takes an unexpected turn. "I've been speaking with the physical education department," he explains. "Given your background, we thought you might be interested in helping establish a self-defense club at Westridge." Marcus appears surprised. "You want me to teach fighting techniques?" "Not exactly," Principal Thornton clarifies. "We want you to help teach safety, awareness, and yes, some basic defensive moves. But more importantly, we want to incorporate what you demonstrated yesterday: discipline and restraint. The ability to defend oneself without escalating violence. The proposal includes faculty supervision and proper insurance coverage, with Marcus serving as a student instructor alongside the wrestling coach. After some discussion about parameters and objectives, Marcus agrees with one condition. The first 3 sessions need to focus on conflict avoidance and verbal de-escalation. No physical techniques until students understand when not to use them. Principal Thornton smiles for the first time. "I think that's an excellent approach." Over the weekend, Marcus's phone buzzes constantly with social media friend requests and messages from classmates. The video has transformed him from invisible new kid to school celebrity overnight. His father warns him about the fleeting nature of such attention, but Marcus seems to understand this intuitively. He responds selectively to messages, accepting some connections while maintaining boundaries. By Monday morning, a new normal begins to establish itself. The initial frenzy has somewhat subsided, though Marcus still attracts more attention than before. During third period, a counselor delivers notes to his class, sign-up sheets for the newly announced self-defense club. By lunch, over 40 students have registered. The true test comes during lunch period when Derek's closest friend, Jason, approaches Marcus's table. The cafeteria grows quiet as students anticipate another confrontation. Jason stands awkwardly, lunch tray in hand, before speaking. "Derek's really sorry," he says, voice low enough that only those nearby can hear. "He wanted me to tell you that. Nobody's ever stood up to him like that." Marcus studies him for a moment before nodding. "Tell him I appreciate the message." Jason hesitates, then adds, "He's also wondering, when he gets back, if he could maybe join that self-defense club they're talking about." This request catches Marcus by surprise. He considers it carefully before responding. "The club is open to everyone willing to follow the principles. That includes respect for all participants." Jason nods and retreats to another table where Derek's usual group sits diminished without their leader. The interaction ripples through the cafeteria as students witness this unexpected development. After school, Marcus attends his first session with Ms. Rivera, the school counselor. Rather than focusing on the fight itself, their conversation explores Marcus's transition to Westridge and his previous experiences with conflict resolution. Ms. Rivera seems particularly interested in his philosophy regarding violence. "You showed remarkable restraint," she observes. "Most teenagers in your position would have either reported the bullying immediately or responded with excessive force when attacked." Marcus considers this. "My sensei always said that mastering techniques is easy compared to mastering yourself. Anyone can learn to throw a punch, but knowing when not to, that's the harder lesson." 2 weeks later, Derek returns to school. Rumors have circulated about how he might react, ranging from vengeful plots to complete reformation. The reality falls somewhere in between. During morning break, Derek approaches Marcus at his locker. Students nearby fall silent, watching the encounter unfold. Derek's face shows the fading remnants of their confrontation, a yellowish bruise near his eye nearly healed. He stands differently now, the aggressive swagger replaced by a more contained posture. "Can we talk?" he asks, his voice lacking its former arrogance. Marcus nods and they step away from the crowd to a quieter corner of the hallway. "I was wrong," Derek says simply. "About you, about how I've been acting, about a lot of things." "We all make mistakes," Marcus replies. "Jason said you might let me join that self-defense thing you're starting, if you're serious about it." Derek nods slowly. "My dad, he says I need to learn discipline. Says maybe that's what I've been missing." The conversation continues briefly, touching on boundaries and expectations. When they return to the main hallway, students watch in amazement as the two shake hands, not friends exactly, but no longer adversaries. That afternoon, the first session of the Westridge Self-Defense Club convenes in the auxiliary gym. 28 students attend, including several who had previously been too intimidated to participate in physical activities. Marcus stands before them alongside Coach Brennan, surveying the diverse group that includes both former victims of bullying and, surprisingly, 2 members of Derek's crew. "Before we learn how to defend ourselves physically," Marcus begins, his voice clear and confident in a way it hasn't been before, "we need to understand that the strongest person in any confrontation is the one who can walk away from it. Today we're going to practice something that might seem simple, but is actually the hardest technique of all: de-escalation." As he leads them through scenarios and role-playing exercises, Marcus catches sight of Principal Thornton observing, quietly from the doorway. The principal gives him a small nod of approval before departing, leaving Marcus to continue the lesson that has brought unexpected unity to a previously divided school community.